it's necessary. We need to wash it and we need to launder it, we need to clean it. It says there is a second step. The first step is that we clean it. But even after we clean our garments and make sure that the garments are clean, we also, is another process for these mitzvahs to be elevated. They need to be further purified, sterilized. They need to be going through another process. The malachim take the mitzvahs that we did, they're still physical, even if we clean them, and they sort of help these mitzvahs to refine them, to bring them up so they can go up. That's what he adds in the bracket here. And also, also after the person washes the garment to Torah mitzvahs, so that they are clean from anything, any residue, anything soilers, after we already accomplished that. He's going to say later on, how do we wash those garments? Says that's what we use the davening. The davening washes garments. Those are the mitzvahs that we do, the Torah that we learn. When we daven with kavanah and we elevate him, that's how we wash those garments. But here he says there's a second process, even after we wash those garments, so they are clean from any pesoilis, any residues. In order for them to be elevated above, so they go up above. So then, they need to be refined through the angels. The Gofif Lahoin, quoting from the Zohar, the Gofif Lahoin v'noshik Lahoin. They hug them, they kiss them, they refine the mitzvahs, the malachim. Why do we need to refine the mitzvahs? It seems like if you wash the mitzvahs and you made it into the higher level, why would we still need to have the malachim refine them? Because at the end of the day, these mitzvahs are done in a physical world. In a physical world, no human being, as the pasuk says, is righteous that doesn't do any sin. And not even a sin. The word chet means a sin, but it can also mean a lacking, which means there's no person that does everything perfect without any chisorin, without any lacking. So in order to elevate it, you need the malach himself, as he says. Because the pasuk says, "Ein tzaddik ba'aretz asher yaseh tov v'lo yechta." There is no righteous in the land that just does good, no sin. Basically, this is a fact due to the fact that we are in this world. Because a person finds himself in the world, in this physical world, so there is therefore a sin, or not really a sin, chet from the lashon of lacking. We're not talking about he must have a sin, but there must be a lacking. I'll call upon him, the Rebbe says. At least, maybe, because there's also different levels on that as well. There's either no person has in the world that doesn't have literally a sin, or minimally, at least he has lacking. Now, so why do we have to, if this is an inevitable fact, because that's the nature. We're in this world, and the world is a place which is not perfect, and we're lacking. So doesn't seem that it's anything of our doing. It's Hashem's creating us in this world. And that's true, but that doesn't mean that we don't need to elevate it later. Even though the sin or hachisorin, the lacking, it's not his fault. Why? Because we're saying he's not a tzaddik because on his fault, really, your people are all tzaddikim, meaning that we are, yes, righteous by ourselves. So how come why we're doing mistakes? How come we have a sin? How come we have lacking if we're all tzaddikim? But that is like the verse says in Tehillim, Noira alila al b'nei Adam. Hashem sort of comes with a accusation on people. In other words, he is the one that causes us to sin. We're in this Gashmizdika world, and he blames us for it. We're being blamed. Noira alila b'nei Adam. He's blaming the Noira blames the people. Which means, why are we here? Why are we not perfect? Sherotzin HaKadosh Baruch Hu ben Adam nimtza ba'olam kazeh. That's Hashem's will, that a human being should be in this world. Why are we doing that? Is because the Eibishter wants us here. So it's not really our fault. It's nothing to do with us. We're tzaddikim. But the Eibishter placed us in Olam Hazeh, and therefore, ain't tzaddik bar sheyaseh tov lo yechto. So we have lackings, we have sins, we have lacking. So it's not us to blame. Why do we need to elevate him? And it gives an example when it's not your fault. Sometimes we give an example, ubedugma, similar to a melech shesholach es benoi lemedina rechoika, a king who sends his son to a distant country, in order to show the wisdom of his son. That also in a faraway country, he should recognize the truth. So the king sends him away. In the palace of the king, in the country of the king, the son is perfect over there. But he sends him far away so that even there he should recognize the truth, which is Bechinas Be'emes Havai Lo'olam, that the truth is Hashem in the world. So that is the truth. So the Eibishter sent us into Golus, the Eibishter sent us into the Olam Hazeh, into this world, so that we should recognize Hashem even in Golus. So the reason why we have a chait and why we have a chisaron is really because of Hashem's fault. So one can argue, since it's Hashem's fault, why do we need to refine our mitzvahs and our Torah if this is where Hashem put us? And yet, since there is a chait, there is a sin from the language, there is a lacking. V'gam ha-Torah mitzvahs shaloi einom b'shleimus, and also the Torah mitzvahs that he does aren't in wholesomeness. Ukamei shekosuf ein tzadik ba'oretz asher yaseh toiv v'lo yechto. There is no tzaddik that does good, not the sin. So that means when we do the toiv, asher yaseh toiv, that even the toiv that it does should be without a lacking. Shachisorin yecheto hugam beha toiru mitzvahs b'yaseh toiv shaloi. This lacking that we're saying yecheto, the sin, the lacking, is in the yaseh. He does the yaseh toiv. We're not talking about two separate things. You do good, and you don't sin other things. In the yaseh toiv, in what you do good, that you shouldn't be lacking. That is v'chsor. So therefore, in order for the Torah and the mitzvahs, that they should be going up above. Then he needs the support of the angel. The person needs the angels to help him bring up this Torah mitzvahs. It's not your fault. It's not anything of your doing. But the bottom line is those Torah mitzvahs, they're lacking. And in order to make them full, you need the malachim to elevate it. Hey. So there's two things about this world why we need to elevate it. First of all, the Rebbe brought down because the world is majority evil, but it's not only because it's evil, it's because it's physical. Physical needs refinement. Hey, this that the Torah mitzvahs in this physical world need and require the support of the angels. It is not only because this physical world is mostly, almost fully Ra. Elo gam, but also mitzat hagashmi is doilam haza. Also, just because the physicality of the world is a physical world. Shali yoisoi gashmi, since the world is a physical, no comparison to the upper worlds that are spiritual. So there's just a physical world. So the need for the malachim to elevate the Torah mitzvahs in this world is not just because of our lacking. We said before, and there's ra, and there's evil, and therefore it needs to be cleaned, and then it needs to be elevated still because we still have chesaron. But just by the definition that things are physicality, physical is very far, infinitely removed from spiritual. And this is similar about derech hayedua b'negeya l'nishmasod, similar to that which is known as it relates to the soul of man. Shafilu tzaddik gomur, even a complete tzaddik, when he goes up to Gan Eden, tzorich tivilo b'nahar dinur, needs to immerse himself. He needs to go to the mikveh called in the river of dinur. That's a river of fire. There's a mikveh of fire. You have to go into toivel yourself, to immerse yourself in that nahar dinur. And the reason is bichdei lishkoyach al chizu dehai almo, in order to forget the chizu, the looks of this world, in order to get rid of your experience in this world. That's the chizu, what you saw and your experience in this world. In order to get rid of it, you got to go to the mikveh. You have to go to the nahar dinur, and then you can elevate yourself. So why is that necessary? So it's explained. Legan Eden, because of the in comparison of this physical world to Gan Eden, even a little bit of the physical, this world's aspects, that holds you back. You can't go up to Gan Eden. You need to immerse yourself in the mikveh. Get rid of anything of this physical world that is still attached to the soul, even though when the soul is spiritual, but from its experience in this physical world, it has to go through the mikveh, and through the mikveh to be elevated to Gan Eden. This is not only from this world to Gan Eden, but actually even from one level of Gan Eden to the next level of Gan Eden, within Gan Eden itself. From the lower level of Gan Eden, from Gan Eden Atach to Gan Eden Elyon, you also need to go through a level of Tevila, a level of immersion, a level of bittul. Similar to the elevations, which is already within the steps of Gan Eden. You also got to go through immersion from the lower level of Gan Eden to the upper level of Gan Eden. Why is that necessary? Over there, you're not going from Gashmi to Ruchni, but still from physical to spiritual, but you're still going to infinitely high madregas, from the lower to the higher levels. Since those elevations are infinitely higher one from the other, first we need to have the subjugation and the sort of the forgetting of what you understood in the lower level of Gan Eden. So what you understood in the lower of the level of Gan Eden will interfere with what you are going to experience now in the upper level of Gan Eden. So you need to be mevatel, you need to negate that understanding in order to be able to reach in the higher level within Gan Eden itself. You do Hamoshul Me'inyan Asogas HaSeichel, as it's known, the example you give from the idea for in order to grasp an idea. That when you want to grasp a new idea, in order for you to come and to reach a higher grasping, a higher understanding, which is infinitely greater than the previous understanding. And we're talking about within this world itself. You have an idea, and then you want to experience and get a much deeper, a much higher, that is infinitely greater than what you know. Now, we're talking about both physical in this world, even though when we're talking about the upper grasping is still in this world, but it's much higher. So we're giving an example from when you try to understand in this world something which is much deeper and higher than what you know already. You first need to negate what you understood before. You can't go to the next level and to the deeper level without negating the previous level. That's what, even what's in this world. It brings an example from the Gemara. The Gemara tells us about Rab Zera, Kamei Rab Zera. Hisolik la'arad Yisrael. Rab Zera first lived in Babylonia, lived in Babel. And before he traveled, and then he traveled to Eretz Yisrael. So over there, he prayed that he forget his learning that he learned in Babel, so that that learning that he already has experienced in Babylonia should not interfere with his new level, because Eretz Yisrael, the learning is in a totally higher level. So in order for him to be able to master, to grasp the new, deeper, higher level of understanding, he couldn't hold on to the previous understanding. He needed to negate that. So he fasted, Kamei Rab Zera. Hisolik la'arad Yisrael. When he went up to the land of Eretz Yisrael, Yosiv Meyo Tanisa, he sat 100 fast day. I guess it was written with a mem, and therefore there is a mem tiny. There's different versions. Either it was 100 or it was 40 fast days, but nevertheless he was fasting lishkoyach Talmud Babli, so that he forget the Babylonian Talmud, so he can learn the Jerusalem Talmud, the Talmud of Eretz Yisrael. So this is the idea that just to go from one level to another level, you need to forget the previous level. So, al derech zeh, in a similar way, when the person's mitzvahs and Torah, which are Gashmias, since they're Gashmias, in order for them to go up, they need to be refined and removed from their physicality in order for them to have the elevation. Al derech zeh hu gam b'anigeya leTorah mitzvah shel ha'adam. Similar, it's also with regards to the Torah mitzvahs of the person. Since they are dressed up in physical matter, so first we need them to be refined. We need them to be undressed from their physicality before they can get up above higher. And that is why we need the Malachim, and that's why they are the ones that help after we clean our garments ourselves. And we daven. And even after our davening, we still require the Malachim to sort of make the physicality into spirituality. All right, why don't we leave it over here for now? The next piece is a little bit lengthy, and we'll mamshich tomorrow.